Next item is move the flag policy. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Journey. Garrison Journey. Welcome, Ms. Burns, in your new stand-up seat.
Your Worship, thank you. As Council is aware, the agenda was published without the attachment, which was the policy itself. This was corrected over the weekend. However, it's certainly understandable if Council wants to postpone consideration of the item. I'm just going to proceed with the presentation and happy to answer any questions, but that can be one of the options for Council tonight. So we'll start with why a flag policy. At the September 26th meeting, administration was directed to draft a policy for Council's consideration regarding raising of flags. The City has received requests to raise flags on behalf of various organizations. However, the City currently does not have a policy or guidelines for considering those requests. Establishing a policy is a recommended course of action to create clear guidelines for the consistent and objective consideration of requests to display flags on behalf of others. As such, this policy before Council this afternoon seeks to set guidelines for handling of those requests and formalize flag etiquette to be observed. I'll begin with flag etiquette. So the order of precedence refers to how flags are to be displayed. The order of precedence is mandatory for all levels of the federal level of government. However, how flags are displayed by other organizations is not mandated and is rather established by practice. The policy before Council this afternoon would therefore state that the City of Vernon will observe and fly flags in the order of precedence as outlined by the Department of Canadian Heritage. Guidelines for half-masting of flags that are not permanently affixed have been included in the proposed policy and reflect the guidance from the Department of Canadian Heritage as well. There is provision to allow the Mayor, in consultation with the CAO, to half-mast flags if deemed appropriate, accompanied by notification to staff and the public through a news release. The policy also includes a requirement for flags to be in good condition, not tattered, stained, or torn. Regarding community requests. So the policy before Council states that the Council will accept requests from community groups, which are defined as not-for-profit organizations that have a local or regional affiliation to the City and provide services or promote the social, environmental, or economic well-being of the community. Requested flags must demonstrate an interest to the community at large by falling within specified criteria and not being commercially oriented. This criteria was developed by researching other municipalities across the province and reviewing the previous authorizations of Council to fly flags, such as the Pride flag, Ukraine flag, the OKIB flag. The proposed policy provides that the City reserves the right to reject requests if the flag represents a contentious or divisive matter, espouses racism, discrimination, hatred, etc., or promotes political, ethical, or religious views. It also clearly states that the flying of a flag does not in any way constitute an endorsement of the City unless otherwise provided in writing. Lastly, regarding proclamations. So this policy seeks to provide clarification through definition regarding proclamations. So it is mandated by the Community Charter, legislated by the Community Charter, that a council may proclaim municipal days of recognition. In June of 2001, Council resolved to not issue proclamations. The policy before Council seeks to, one, confirm that the flying of flags is not considered a proclamation, a municipal day of recognition, and secondly, confirm this continued direction of Council to not issue proclamations.
Can you say that one more time?
But a proclamation? Yeah, so Section 157 of the Community Charter says a proclamation is a municipal day of recognition. And so through this policy, we would set that definition that when we fly a flag, we're not saying it's a municipal day of recognition.
Councillor Quarren, can you just use the mic and ask your question again?
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I know you get excited about something.
Yeah.
Flag policy might be.
Well, because
go ahead.
I mean that because I was just having this discussion with Akmal about proclamations, and because we don't have proclamations. And so then you start talking about proclamations, and my question is, could you repeat that? Which she did. So according to this policy, flying a flag will not be constituted as a proclamation because it will be not considered a day of
recognition.
So
under the Community Charter, it says that a council may declare or a mayor may proclaim, and I might be getting those backwards, it might be the other way around, a municipal day of recognition. So this policy is going to seek that clarification by defining that we're not going to consider flying a flag to be a proclamation, a municipal day of recognition. So us putting up, you know, if we get a request for the, I don't want to pick an organization, a random organization, unicorn organization, by flying that flag, we're not saying it is the day of the unicorn. We're simply, it met the criteria, so we fly the flag. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. That's where I fundamentally have a problem, because we're kind of wiggling around this proclamation, because in my opinion, it is a proclamation. That's why we're putting the flag up. So we got to be very careful here about it's semantic. In my opinion, it's kind of semantics, and it's a way of getting around declaring a proclamation. So in my opinion, it's still a gray area. We can debate this later, but thank you for that clarification.
Councillor Fair, and then Councillor Guy. Okay,
Guess what, we're done.
you too, Councillor Guy.
So options for council today. You could, it's 4 options actually. So you could postpone consideration because the policy wasn't attached to the agenda in a timely fashion. You could approve the flag policy as presented, because I did update the agenda over the weekend. You could refer it back to administration with amendments that you'd like to see to the policy, or you could direct administration to discontinue preparation of a flag policy.
Thank you. Councillor Fair.
Different opinion than Councillor Quarry. I don't see it as a proclamation. I see it as a community service, is my view of it.
Just a second, Councillor Quarry.
Yeah,
You don't want to watch the rest of this council meeting from outside the window.
yeah, an individual coming up or an organization and asking to raise a flag on this property, I view that as a community service available to groups as opposed to a proclamation. Unless we very clearly define it as different than that, then that's a different story. Where I do disagree with the statement you make is the pride flag wouldn't have gone forward under this policy because it wasn't a not-for-profit that brought it forward. So another thing is we had kind of talked a little bit when this whole thing came up about, is it one flagpole we want? Do we want more? I know it was just one that came forward. Seeing as this was just put forward really for review on Thursday, and I didn't read it till Saturday morning, I would like to defer it until the following meeting for further consideration.
You have to make a motion.
Well, there is a motion on the table already.
No, if you want to defer, you make a motion.
Oh, I'd like to defer to the following meeting.
Okay?
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Motion to defer? Motion to defer? Do I have a seconder? What? Excuse me. We had a motion to defer, we didn't get a seconder. You withdrew it. How long does this take? Councillor Guy. Yes, we are.
So we're okay to keep discussing this?
We are.
I've got one little question or point and a couple of other bigger ones. Under the policy, I guess if this is going to go back, and you just consider this for the revisions if you need to make any. Under general flag etiquette, under policy, it says the flag has to be in good condition. And then later on under community requests, the question community groups says the flag has to be in excellent condition. Is that a higher standard on purpose? Or do you really mean good condition, just like before?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yes.
Good or excellent, yes, you're right. That could be amended for clarification.
Okay.
For consistency. Thank
Okay.
you.
The second point was similar to something that Councillor Farah just mentioned. I wondered if this term registered not-for-profit organizations maybe was unintentionally restrictive. Whether, I didn't quite catch what you said about Ukraine or the Pride flag, but would there be other groups other than registered non-profit organizations in the past or in the future that we might want to consider requests for flying flags from? That aren't not-for-profits?
Your Worship.
Ms. Bruns, yes.
So in the drafting of this policy, it was intentional for not-for-profits. And perhaps it's my misunderstanding, but it was I believe that the Pride Committee is a not-for-profit organization. Okay. Okay. So we would certainly could make that amendment to be a bit more broad, if that's what I'm hearing the direction from all of council would be, to consider requests from just community groups and take out that not-for-profit piece.
Well, the community group is defined as a not-profit, so you might need to tweak the definition of a community group. That's all.
That's what I'm seeking.
Yeah.
That would be the direction of council to
Yeah.
to remove the not-for-profit aspect of the community group definition.
Okay, thanks. And then thirdly, back to this question about proclamations. I wasn't here on June 4th, 2001, when we decided to abolish the practice of issuing proclamations. Even though we're allowed to do it, is there a good reason to prevent us from doing something that the community charter allows us to do, and say we absolutely can't ever do it?
This is a proclamation question. I'll refer that to Mr. Pierce. Yeah. We'll leave that one alone for now. That one's a deep hole. That's a left turn. Thank you, Councillor. So you have a call as a definition of community group to be reviewed would be suggested. All right, we've got Councillor Durney, and then Mund, and then Quiring.
My issue was also that the language was restrictive, and that isn't, in my opinion, the spirit of the direction we wanted to go with this. So I would also be in support of that change to open it up a bit further, non-for-profit.